To the credit of many artists I've recognized here that are working in the music sphere today, or have made their mark in it certainly, and more specifically in terms of our concentration from time to time, the metal and rock world specifically, I feel quite honored to be in the self-positioned seat that I'm in, exploring so many talents that either I've known about for some time and I'm getting a perspective for alongside all of you with new offerings, or I'm taking a fresh introduction path of entrance to, and maybe pitching a route for yourself as well, if you, like me, are approaching as a newcomer or evolving listener. And I now fit the case of the latter, having just humored my first piece from RELIQA off their upcoming record, Secrets of the Future. As far as I'm concerned, and I said as much in our previous encounter, Terminal is a wonderful fanfare of experience that I am looking at these by track listing a bit out of order. I'm going by what released first as a single, and KILLSTAR is the latest entry. And what brought me in, based on a very little sample of, I believe, the chorus, as issued by a short promotional on, I think it was YouTube, I saw it from Nuclear Blast Records. That's how I became aware of RELIQA. And I had seen their name kind of floating around because of some of the, like Terminal, the video that had come out. I'm like, okay, that's a name maybe for the future that we'll consider at some later date. But KILLSTAR pushed this forward in a bit of an unorthodox pattern to what I normally do for any group I consult on a first-time basis. And you know, if you follow my work, that my tendency is to go by chronological order. So if we're digging back into a group in terms of their history, we'll usually go from a selection of pieces that are a bit older in their debut and then go to the newer releases. But because KILLSTAR is what brought me in, I wanted to put these ones first. And at some later date, coming imminently soon for sure, but Terminal launches this, and at least in my opinion, we will be humoring RELIQA on part of 12 pieces as slated now, with an open door, of course, for the future to any artist I recognize here. That's a policy that I've never once retracted for any credit. And for RELIQA, any new offerings off of Secrets of the Future, and maybe the album, just because Terminal is so tempting. I don't know. We'll see what I can swing. I mean, I cover a wide field of artists here, as many of you know, and sometimes it is a bit of a juggling act, but I like to fit in new names and new discoveries as quick as I can. RELIQA, we will be coming back to this name, and as far as I'm concerned for the future, there's an open door to hearing more. Terminal is such an atmospheric and beautiful work, not just, again, in its human heart, and that's very much stated by the lyrics, of beautiful phrasing and some originalist lines I'm not as used to with the phrasing structure, but as a progressive metal voice, a particular subgenre I'm still getting more familiarized to in specific concentration, apart from familiarity points like me, even though I've been a metalhead for many years, studying the specific outlets of it, like death metal, power metal, symphonic metal, heavy metal, I'm getting a better sense of the differentiation of all of you. In these collaborative journeys that we take together, as I've said, music is best enjoyed. I've said this all the time because it's true, at least from my vantage point. It's best enjoyed first and foremost as a collaborative art. And for RELIQA, I'm glad I had the opportunity and feel quite honored, as I said, some of the synth choices are quite resonant in memory for me to some of our metal favorites that play around the same types of structures. I do love the centralized heavy metal root to this, though. They know how to mix their songs well with various elements and still maintain clarity. Each layer is clearly defined. You hear it? The synths really add such an atmosphere to each note, don't they? I really appreciate how intricate this score is.
Scratch whatever itch you need, 'cause it's blind leading blind, and we're all the same. Sip the wine or the cold world eats itself alive.
These darker note foundations I really like. Again, the tragic mood. Beautifully established voice. Interesting escape from the central root. The pause there, I think, worked. It's interesting. It's very different from what I'm used to. Oh, it's beautiful. The vocals here for these songs paired with the scored evolution is really something special. Speaking of modern tones, an inclusion to different, seemingly stray genres. You know, I did read that progressive metal heavily utilizes pacing and time signature shifts. There's no way to escape that here. It's beautifully woven. Speaking of versatility and metal, this is one of the best examples I've seen. Wow. I was right to fast track this one. I wouldn't want to delay on it for a second in terms of getting to it, because it really is one of my favorite pieces I've heard so far this year. Fantastic 2024 debut. Here's our retreat.
Did you neutralize the shame?
There's the chorus bit, I know. This is utilizing one of my favorite note patterns too for the chorus sections. It really is well mapped to my immediate interest and reverence to other artists. I love how long that hold is. And notice how the notes intermix with the vocals. It's hard to see the separation because they both fade into each other. You know, I told you the short was enough to tempt me. But speaking of getting a better understanding for progressive metal, certainly for myself, and maybe you would agree, experiencing the explosive, modern, reaching quality that progressive metal bombastically boasts through the voice of RELIQA, those time signatures specifically, the pacing shifts, and even genre inclusion to structures I'm not as familiarized to, with certain exceptions in mind. It's not typical for the outlets we host here, where usually if there's a particular genre focused on in declaration, the group will abide by that. There are, like I said, some deviations, and artists do play around from time to time, you know, with maybe one number or another, but it's not necessarily a core. It'll be a bit of a it's not the way I want to phrase it. It'll be a circumstantial deviation that registers independently apart from one's library. It's not as centralized on voice. I don't know if KILLSTAR is understandably evoking the roots of RELIQA in different offerings, because Terminal, by comparison, is a traditionally structured piece. And again, not bad at all. I love Terminal. I'm not saying this in any way to sound disparaging. I love traditionalist structures. I love any metal pieces that we've certainly welcomed here, and many favorites I personally have, and KILLSTAR will fit right in that. But for numbers that evolve so strikingly and play around, are completely unafraid to, for this, out of the pieces we've welcomed so far in 2024 this year, this is one of the most evidently variated. I've not... Okay, close examples of approximate for me and what I would register as familiarized experiences to that level of variation within metal. I think immediately of American-based group Fallen in Reverse, another favorite of mine. Consider the rap structure interwoven, but I haven't seen... Okay, but even, again, studying these contrasts is so interesting. Fallen in Reverse, at least from what I remember, does not necessarily have as many as evident time signature changes. The rap pacing, yes. So I recognize that aspect of metal, and I see where it definitely has a, well, rap slash, a bit of, I always kind of flow between rap and hip-hop defining, because both, there is some, I think it's kind of rap-esque, but it definitely airs on a more aggressive side, at least on vocals. On part of, I forget the name of the lead vocalist moment, but she's amazing. I love her. And just, I only heard 2 numbers by her, and I'm like, already, she's one of my favorites. Yeah, by the comparison I was making to Falling in Reverse, it's not as much time signature changes, at least as far as I'm aware of their library they've relied on, but the rap root is recognizable. Bringing both in not only gives a pedestal effect to the concentration on rap, that isolation provides an opportunity, like I said on entrance here, the clarity to these numbers, especially this one, the level of variations between both music, synths, vocals, you sense everything, each note, and plus the gradual incline too on build. That introduction is phenomenal. But the whole bridge section into the second refrain for the chorus, that whole area to me of evolution of the song expresses such an intricate creativity and specific tailoring that I don't think I've witnessed yet here in our adventures together. And we've seen variation, I think, on time signatures, or at least I'm thinking of more examples that are upcoming. Maybe a couple that escape my memory at the moment of what we have previously humored, but this is one of the most ardent examples that I think I've heard yet. And it's quite glamorous as a number. I can perhaps see some of the motifs it's talking about with the lyrical translation. If you, again, want to interpret it maybe one way or another, maybe it's meant to be seen broadly and in a bit of a figurative sense. It has great imagery, paired, though, to such great music execution. It is so finely tuned. The vocals really capture my attention, and the key choices on at least some parts, well, generally the entire song is great, but between verse and chorus, I mean, my personal leaning is to the latter because I just love the key pick. I'll give you an example for an analogy on why it is a particular favorite of mine. But the darker notes of this hits the foundation, the tragic moods of these pieces, and that melancholy yet an enticing energy. I mean, the pieces I've heard from RELIQA so far just tempt you to listen. Again, it was biting at me the minute I first heard that chorus sample. I'm like, I need to cover this, and I'm glad I fast-tracked it, even though, like I said, it's a bit different in how we're going to be approaching RELIQA in the future, because I'm looking at these newer numbers first, and we'll come back to older ones at some later date. But I really wanted to get on to KILLSTAR. I did not want to wait any longer with this one, and I see why. Just those key choices alone are fantastic. The choruses, speaking of, again, nostalgic, I say I'm a metalhead for many years, but again, in a sense of being inclusive to both metal and rock music, or anything that embodies a rock tone. I've noted this example before. It's one I've only attributed now with RELIQA's consideration twice, but it's a favorite of mine from my childhood from like many years ago. And it's not a piece that you would necessarily recognize within metal spheres, because it is registered from the music I was raised on in the beginning, when I was a kid. My environment was very much etched with favorites and very well-established names within the Christian and contemporary spheres. Rebecca St. James is a very well-known name, and she's mostly known again on the worship and contemporary Christian music end, not as much for her rock tones, but I forget the album name at the moment. It's from one of her older entries, Reborn. Has a bit of a pop rock chic to it, and it's one of my oldest favorites. Again, forget the year of release. We're digging way back with even just me attributing that. It's like past probably 15, 20 years, or maybe even over that. But same key. Very different stylizations between groups, but I immediately see that connection. I attributed that before with, who was the other group? Ethereum. Their Spellbinder song. It's just a personal favorite. It might not connect directly because of the way the music is voiced, and the styles are diametrically different from what Rebecca St. James did. It's much more on the softer rock side and definitely has more of an interwoven pop tone. But that key, I freaking love it. So when the chorus is boasted, I forget exactly what the key is specifically. Again, I come from a music background of like 5 years piano experience, but like way my childhood, I'm very much more so a music connoisseur. And because of my lack of knowledge on intricacies within music development, I do rely for the most part on approximate terms that hopefully we all can relate to, whether we come from a music background in any sense or not. But you'll forgive me again if there's a bit of a lack of knowledge in terms of proper definition, but I'm running by what I can best clarify, at least on what I'm picking out with the song. And that key, whatever the notes are, it's a beautiful match to my immediate tastes. I fell in love with it the minute I heard the chorus. Hearing it in context to a beautifully wide-ranging number, a vibrant one. I absolutely love RELIQA, and I'm only 2 experiences in, with more to come as I promised you, but an open door for the future, and I cannot wait to humor more, whatever that looks like, older or newer, and I will definitely give the album consideration in terms of interweaving that into the lineup of what I've slated on part of Phase 2 with numerous other artist credits. KILLSTAR is just a KILLSTAR and Terminal. Let's not undercut the original that brought me in. They're both freaking amazing metal pieces. First debut, in fact, as I said, from Australia. That's where RELIQA's from. I told you there's talent abroad, and it's worthwhile to go on your globe-trotting adventure like I am, whether that's being self-led or by recommendation. I don't remember getting any comments telling me that I should look up RELIQA. I think this was an independent choice. Maybe there were 1 or 2 that I forgetting at the moment. But whatever the case, I'm glad they're featured here again. I feel quite honored to be introduced to RELIQA and hopefully introduce some of you as well to a group that definitely is going to be going places, and I cannot wait to give their pieces and tracks further study. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on KILLSTAR, the Cold World. It's beautiful, and just the title alone is enticing enough. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. As I said, I think it's an exemplary metal number. Definitely an evolved voice. Newer stylization comes across very modern, but beautiful. It really is going to stand out on many replays, and that's the immediate experience I'm going to take later today. I know this one's going to be one. And Terminal, I keep coming back to RELIQA over and over and over, because what I hear in these numbers, and again, I maybe not even concentrate on every individual layer to the song, at least on introduction or evolution. This is an experience to take in, and I think on many repeat listens, it's going to become an even more admirable piece, and I can give it credit for in word right now, but I'm in love with it. And it leaves me wanting more. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.